should be calling in. And we want to, I love this, contrast and compare a few things. The nature and scope of Hollywood, Judge Joe Brown. The breakup of the black African family, if you will. The need for black parenting, Dr. Omar Johnson should be calling in. Hey, look, and we're going to talk a little bit about Bill Cosby. All right, so as soon as they get ready, we'll be ready. Omar Baruti, Cedric Curbison, Isaac Woodridge, and yours truly, right here, AM 730, KQPN, AM 1600, WMQPN, 901-452-3094, 901-324-7490. Grab a line, get on the phone. Hey, look, we're taking your questions and comments. Yes, sir, right here, right now. Hey, look, did you see in the news? The white lady called the police on the brother, the black brother, working for UPS, delivering packages during the holiday season. She calls the police crazy woman, or just downright hateful, racial hatred. Is that what you would call it? Hey, did you see the young lady, Taylor, aspiring African-American young lady, astronaut, sitting on the airplane next to the white man. The white man did not want to sit next to her, wanted to get up and move. Look, and I'll tell you right now that the elected officials in this city have allowed the interlopers, the foreigners, to come into this, but I won't put it all on the elected officials. We, the citizenry, have a responsibility to do something, to rise up, to organize, to invest, buy businesses, etc. Yes. So here's my question. What should we do as citizens of this city? And how should we do it? Or is this a sign of the time? Hey, look, here's another question. Is this a representation of the way in which most so-called white people, and I say so-called white people because I've never seen a white person in my life. Have you ever seen a white person? That's why I said so-called. So is it silent racial hatred? I don't say racism. I say racial hatred. And look, the reason I say racial hatred is because, as far as I'm concerned, this specifically identifies the problem and where it lies. And racial hatred means this in this case. It means that the woman who called the police on the brother were doing his job. The white man, so-called white man, moved because a young black lady was sitting next to him, simply means that they hate black people. And when are we going to wake up and realize this is a reality in this country? When? When are we going to stop skinning and grinning up in white folks' face? When are we going to take Dr. Umar Johnson's advice that the black man is the most hated man on the planet? And he's basically done nothing to anyone, for the most part. Hey, look, we got Cedric Curbison here with us. Omar should be pulling in. Isaac, let us know when Dr. Omar Baruti is pulling in. Into the parking lot. Yes, sir, right here, right now. 901-452-3094. 901-324-7490. We hope that Judge Joe Brown will call in, get in on it. Dr. Umar Johnson after that. In the meantime, we shall discuss the issues at hand. Cedric, what are your thoughts when we talk about this whole racial issue? The airplane, black man doing his job. And I'll tell you something else. You often hear sometimes white people talking about, I got 2 black friends. Duh. Now, look, not all white people are haters, but most of them are complicit. But there are some I experienced, dealt with some when I was attending the University of Memphis, but they were mostly women who spoke the truth about history and the social context in this country. So we can have a civilized conversation, but I'm not one running around talking about I've got white friends. I don't come in contact with many white people, and when I do, whatever the issue is, I'll deal with it at hand. I don't hate white people simply because they are white. I recognize the reality and the history. Hey, do you recall, Cedric, in Jasper, Texas? And most times when you say Jasper, Texas, most black folk and white folk, they automatically know what you're talking about. I don't remember the black brother's name, first name, but his last name was Bird.
Yeah,
Bird.
I remember.
And he had 2 white friends.
Mm-hmm.
And they drug him tied to a truck to his death. When you're, Isaac, when you are a friend to someone, you don't drag them to their death, do you?
No, you don't.
If you have listen, no one agrees on everything all the time. Not even husband and wife. Not even teeth and tongue, they sometimes fall out. But if we say we are civilized, we can work it out. We can talk about it. And we don't have to hook him up to the back of a truck, not even a white person, and drag them to their death. So when are we as a people going to realize this reality that Dr. Umar Johnson talked about last week? When are we going to do it? And what is it going to take? And we are going to have to stop accepting pennies and handouts. And this is one of the ways that we get these elected officials in there, because they say, this is my suspicion, let me just be honest. Here's $100, $200, $300, and vote for me. Hey, have you noticed, I'm going to shut up after this, have you noticed that all of the curbside pickups, all of the tires and all that stuff, since these guys got back in office, all of that stuff stopped? Have you noticed that? I'm seeing more and more tires. First question, Cedric, the racial makeup of this country. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, sir.
Well, racial makeup. You mean the percentages? Well, I personally don't see it as
the social context in that sense.
Yeah, I personally see the white people, black people. There's good white people, and there's bad white people. There's good black people, and there's bad black people. So I personally don't, view it as all white people are going to be mean. As a matter of fact, or evil, or have some evil or ill intent towards me. I do know that there are people out there like that on both sides of the coin. We see more in the media and on the news of when it's a white person against a black person, unless we're talking about the murders or whatever it is their agenda that the powers that be are trying to push at that particular time. There's especially being down here in the South, sometimes I view a person from the first perception as going to be a certain type of way. Let's say we see a guy looks like got the bib overalls on and has certain characteristics as the media has portrayed as to be a racist, and I find that this person is the guy who gave me the sugar, showed me where the napkins were inside the place, and he was really not the person who I expect him to be. Mm-hmm. I don't see us running into as much racism physically than we actually hear about. People talk about it and we see it visualized on social media somewhere, but when we walk out the door, we don't really get accosted by a white person as a black person. We don't get these things are not really as real as they seem to be. And as much as the black on black crime, I mean, that's not as real as we see. That's when we walk down the street, we really are not fighting and shooting each other. That's right. They'll grab a murder from way across the country somewhere and put it on our TV like it happened around the corner. Right. And then we're in outrage way over here, and we never even heard of half of these towns where these murders have happened. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I do understand exactly what you're saying though on the other side. Yeah, we've got. I love to contrast and compare. We've got Judge Joe Brown coming right to you, Judge. Just a couple of statements, real quick. I'm working on prejudging people based on what I think I see when I first look at them. Mm-hmm. What you mentioned is a good point. Learning how not to prejudge people, and the other point is that the media is saying that this so-called black on black crime, that we as a people shooting and killing each other. Not as much as is being portrayed. And then the other part that sometimes is being promoted is that we are not working. We are late, and I see young men at work every day. Young black men are working. It's not that bad. All right, we'll talk about. We've got Judge Joe Brown on the phone. Judge Joe Brown, how are you, sir?
All right, great day, my brother.
Yes, sir. Great day. But let's start off. I want to start off with this one: the nature and scope of Hollywood, because you and I have talked about that a lot. I've heard you talking about it. We mentioned it last week. We've got 30 minutes to work on this today. Go right ahead, sir.
All right, you see the article in Esquire?
I didn't see it.
Billy D. Williams comes out the closet.
What? Did you see it, Omar?
No.
Okay.
No. I know he didn't like black women, but he liked that though.
Omar said no, he didn't. He didn't like black women, but he didn't know he was like that.
He says he came out, claimed to be gender fluid. He doesn't consider himself a male or female. He's both. Wow. Cedric.
Yeah.
Well, and he talks about his favorite role was playing in Brian's song as Gale Sayers, the Chicago Bear football player. And he talks about being the roommate of another football player, and he called it a love story between two guys. Mm-hmm. But, this is what we get. It's their right to do what the hell they want to do. No problem. But you have a right, and you have to juxtapose the right up against obligation and responsibility. If you're going to deal with obligation, you're supposed to be what you ought to be. Mm-hmm. You can be a damn fool, but you should be something else. You have some good common sense.
Right.
And we have a problem in our neighborhoods because they have become matriarchies. Mm-hmm. And Hollywood is pushing that. Pushing it very, very, very hard. We don't have a masculine component in our neighborhoods. And that means that the young males are being taught to be girls. And it's kind of strange. It's like if you had some kind of fairy running around with a magic wand, and he took your typical lesbian out of the hood, waved the magic wand overnight, and they woke up with a penis the next morning, you'd have your typical male component in the hood. Both are raised as girls, both like girls sexually, but the guys have boy plumbing, and neurons in the back of their minds from an incident when they were 6 or 7 years old, and they ideate on getting somebody of the opposite sex to take care of. That's the way girls have ideated for a long time, finding some man to move them on up in life.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't hear it that way because they don't have any men around to tell them to the contrary. Real men, they have adult males who haven't done what's necessary to have the manhood component, and they look at it as live off the opposite sex. I would be on the bench and I'd be sentencing some young guy, and I'd say, for the court is disposed to grant you probation, young man, would you please tell the court how you are going to manage to earn a living there? The court does not see this from your probationary report. Yo, Your Honor, I got 4 ladies take good care of me. 2 got good JOBs. 1 get a crazy chick, and the other one get AFDC. She takes good care of me. Well, what do? Well, I make them feel smooth. I smooth them out so they can cope with their day.
Mm-hmm.
What do? Well, ain't that enough, Your Honor? Oh, please. Come on. Where is this thing going? And you see, you get it on manhood. I hate to harp on this movie. Like Black Panther was a blockbuster, and black people made it happen. As a matter of fact, the theater that sold the most tickets was a Paradiso here in Memphis, and that's in all of the United States, including Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, Miami, Detroit, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
And looked at Black Panther. He had 2 tall female bodyguards who were supposed to be his bodyguards, but if you listen carefully, they nagged him through the whole movie, telling him what to do, what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we walked in a place looking like a pimp with 2 hoes with it,
Mm-hmm.
His mother ran the country, but he's the king. His aunt took care of all the foreign affairs, but he's the king. He's running around in tights playing vigilante for some crazy white folk that got off,
Mm-hmm.
You looked in the marketplace. When you saw that, you didn't see any men doing anything except toting and fetching. When you got into the halls of science, you didn't see a single man except one pushing a cart way in the background.
Mm-hmm.
The only male was that guy with the lip circle and corresponding to a preacher with that lime green coat and the orange tie looking like a clown.
Mm-hmm.
You saw them having to go deal with getting a white ex-CIA guy to play their pilot in their virtual aircraft. You saw the penultimate battle was between the men of the tribe and the women of the tribe, and the women were trying to kill the men with spears, guns, knives, swords, and bow and arrow, you name it. And then the women went and betrayed the whole tribe by going outside to get reinforcements, and they went up into the mountains where there was snow on the ground, and their allies lived in caves, and you can get the inference about generally men are supposed to be cavemen from that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
The villain was Killmonger, and they actually had him quoting Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, W.B. Du Bois, Martin Luther King, H. Rap Brown, Huey P. Newton, Stokely Carmichael, but they made him the villain. And as a matter of fact, when Stan Lee wrote the comic, he had the Black Panther more like Killmonger than he did the way they portrayed it in the movie. They had the guy that played Black Panther. Also, they had him playing Jackie Robinson. They had him playing Thurgood Marshall, and they had him playing some flamer in this movie, The Gods of Egypt. And you get this association, since the first one would be the flamer, that you've got this person who can be all of these different things, from just flaming gay all the way to bad ass, Black Panther.
So, Judge, let me ask you this.
It was bad image.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Do I hear you discussing the non-reality coming from Hollywood, the movie producers, and do I hear you discussing black people, if you will, African Americans, playing into non-reality stuff?
Yeah, I do, but also the subtle and not so message that they've got the black characters playing. In other words, if you're going to be a man, you're one thing. You don't sit there and passively let your women run everything for you and then direct your force someplace that may be ridiculous. You don't sit there and put yourself when you get an advantage and allow something to divert you from power and exercise of the power, and you use it for, in the movie, white folks good, ultimately in the end, and you give it away. You don't come in matching imagery that looks so much like something negative in our community, the pimp walking in with a hoe on each arm. You know, that kind of thing, you cause young kids to ideate, to seek to be like what you push. You don't do that kind of thing. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Jesse Williams here, we just came out the closet.
Right.
What's that say about what all the women and the men have been ideating about being or trying to act like all these years?
Right. I've got 2 or 3 more interesting questions for you. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go a little longer than we had planned. We've got Dr. Umar Johnson on the other end, but let's go. Dr. Umar.
Doctor, how you doing?
Hold on, and we're going to go a little longer than we had planned. Coming right to you, 901-324-7490, or you may call it 901-452-3094. We've got Dr. Umar Johnson. We've got Judge Joe Brown. And call in with your questions or comment. Judge Joe Brown, what is your major criticism of Hollywood, and what would you do differently? Because we are talking about black people, African Americans. Go ahead, sir.
Well, to start with Hollywood, it goes to the fundamental core of Hollywood. It is the most racist institution I've worked in my 72 years. It's low down, they're backstabbed, they're vicious, they have no moral scruples, they have no ethical principles when they deal with each other, and that leaks over into what they put out in the public. But they don't try anymore to, with their exceptions, but they don't try anymore to push principle, honor, and obligation. They push hedonistic dysfunction and do what you want to do to hell with everybody else. They can't even come up with a new movie these days. They always are trying to redo something because they've run out of ideas, because they don't think in terms of the traditional story that's put before people. Whether you're talking the caveman or you're talking Shakespeare or an old black and white movie, it was usually you talked about human nature and you had a positive message. Either you don't do this because you don't prosper, or you do this and you do, or you do this because you had to, even if you die in the process, which is a good thing. So they push principle. Now they don't. It's just nihilistic garbage half the time. And they don't even know why it works or doesn't work. So we follow this whole thing, and we don't have any masculinity in our neighborhoods anymore. No black men telling folk what they ought to do and what not to do. A son, don't do this, son, this is the way you do that. A young man, here's how you do this, here's how you don't do that. And the ideation that our community gets is from Hollywood, and it's a poisonous source. You know, what is this for saying? Fruit don't fall too far from the tree. And if you're eating that fruit, you get the same poison that you got from the root of the tree.
Okay, let's transition to the breakup of the black family. Let me hear your perspective on that. And here's what I think we should do. I think since Dr. Umar Johnson's on the line, let's just go back and forth, comments and questions from you, then Dr. Umar, like that. You go on this first, Judge O'Brien. Yes.
1974, I was with Legal Services there in Memphis.
Yes.
And one of the most frequent cases was getting the check cut back on after they cut it off when a social worker masculine in the household trying to interact with his children, and they said no. So that is the start of a campaign to exclude black men from the family.
Okay.
And that got worse. So we have no masculine input into these children.
Mm-hmm.
That is a bad thing.
All right.
We have got to do something about that.
Absolutely. Dr. Umar Johnson, welcome to the Love Power Show, sir.
Good morning to everyone, and good morning to Judge Joe Brown.
Yes, sir. Good morning to Judge Joe Brown. We've got Omar Baruti with us, Cedric Curbison, and myself, Wallace Red. We've got Dr. Umar Johnson on the line right now. Give us a call right here at 901-452-3094 or call us at 901-324-7490, AM 1600 or AM 730. Dr. Umar Johnson, let us talk starting out with the breakup of the black family. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. There is a notion in the black community that slavery destroyed the black family. Slavery was definitely a weapon against the black family, but it did not destroy it. Through slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, early years of black power, most of our homes were headed by a man and a woman. We had perfect balance between masculine and feminine energy. You don't begin to see the decline of the two-parent black household until 1970. 1970 was the year where the single black mother took off in terms of being the head of our households, raising the children on her own. This was because that's the same decade that the United States government came into the black community in the aftermath of Dr. King's assassination in '68 to economically devastate and destroy the financial infrastructure of the black community to make sure we could not finance any more revolutions, movements, or rebellions.
That's right.
Two things they did. They went into the high schools and took out all of the industrial building trade programs.
Yes.
Up until 1970, there was no everyone needs to go to college narrative. Up until 1970, we were living comfortably as plumbers and electricians, as carpenters and welders and bakers and barbers. We were doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
But they said we got to get rid of that economic infrastructure because that black man having his own business allows him to donate money to King. He could donate money to Malcolm. He could donate money to the Panthers. We got to kill all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So they took that out of the high schools, and then they also took the factories out of the inner city. So they killed the black man's ability to take care of his family. 1970. 1980, they dropped the crack cocaine off. So now, the black man has a decision. You could try to sell this dope to feed your family, or you could smoke the dope to deal with the psychological pressure of not being able to provide. 1994, Bill Clinton's crime bill, which was basically mass incarceration on steroids for the first time in American history. Mandatory minimum sentences for nonviolent drug-related offenses. 3 strikes and you're out. And not only that, we're going to cut millions of single black mothers off of welfare. So when you talk about taking the black man out the house, the economic devastation of the 70s, the crack of the 80s, and the Bill Clinton's crime bill of the 90s completely destroyed the black man's ability to take care of his family and participate in that family. Because one thing welfare programs did was it made it almost impossible for an able-bodied black man to remain in the household in order for the woman to get benefits for her children. Even today, right now, if you are in public housing, you cannot have an ex-offender live in that home. So when the father comes home, if that mother is with her children in federally funded housing, he cannot be caught in that home. If he is, they will put her and her children out on the street.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned black people getting married. There's a book, and the name of the book is The Odyssey of the African American. In that book, there's a chapter where it talks about the slave ship arriving on these shores, and people were getting off, these black people, these ships, and looking around, looking for their loved ones. And even after that, they, like you said the other day on YouTube, they were still getting married. And when I was a young man growing up, I recognized something. I didn't know what it was in the 70s and 80s and 90s. You're exactly right. And so up until recently, we were getting married in relationships and building families. And so now, is the question a matter of, let me shift to Judge Joe Brown, is it a matter of rebuilding economically and establishing businesses in this country, in our communities, especially for black men, Judge Joe Brown? We've got Omar Baruti here, Cedric Curbison, Isaac Witteris. Give us a call right here, 901-452-3094, 901-324-7490. Go ahead, Judge Brown. Then we'll take a question, comment from Omar Baruti.
The tragic thing about what we're running into now is that we do have a class of very hard-working black men who are conscientious and, for the most part, directed. But they have become isolated and they're not mainstream in our community. I remember back in 1972,
he said he can't hear the judge.
Well, okay, I'm saying that there is very hard-working black men who are isolated and are no longer part of the mainstream black society. That's unfortunate. But I was also saying in 1972, when I was with this D.C. think tank as an intern, I remember I had an assignment to study the slave pamphlets on microfilm in the Library of Congress. And unfortunately, the program they were laying out to the slave owners was a long-term generational plan, and it's still ongoing. They considered black people to be two-legged livestock, and they wanted them to breed, and they weren't concerned about the efficacy of a family. They were trying to eliminate it so there would be random, sporadic, and frequent breeding. We get that now. They did not want the male to be part of any decision-making chain, so they taught the female slaves that they were to be in charge, and they would not ever deal with a senior male. They would always deal with a senior female. So they were encouraging a female head of household. They ideated that the slave owner could make slaves, but the mother of the slave could make him a better slave than he could. So he was encouraged to put this ideation on a generational basis in the black woman's head about how to raise her children so they would be slaves, good slaves, when they grew up. Now, a certain segment of our black population got away from that, but we aren't breeding like the other segment are. We aren't having a whole bunch of kids. We aren't incentivized by a collective remembrance of the welfare program they had a little while ago. And when they kept adding a bigger check to a bigger brood of kids, that really sent things downhill. So right now, we've got to turn things around so we put manhood back in our neighborhood. That is the key.
The key.
Manhood in the neighborhood.
All right.
We don't have it, but we got to get it back.
All right. Let's go.
The family is the foundational unit of society.
There you go.
When you make the black man a pariah in his family, it's all going to hell for the particular ethnic group that does not have a solid family unit. So you've got to get the black man back in the family.
All right. Dr. Umar, we're going to hear from Omar Baruti right now. Go ahead, Omar.
I'd like to know, it looked like the church went in the closet when these gay people came out.
The church went in the closet?
They went in the closet. The gay people
and they came out of the closet.
Yes. And I'd like to know, what can we say to the church to make them, stand back up again and preach against the illnesses that they see in the society and in the congregation?
Hey, but that's a great one for Dr. Umar Johnson. Dr. Umar Johnson. Did you hear Omar?
Yes, sir. So now remember I want to tie this question to my previous comment.
Okay.
So the 1970s, they economically devastated the black community. 1980s, they brought in crack cocaine chemical devastation. 1990s, Bill Clinton crime bill, mass incarceration devastation. So what happened in the year 2000? Because every 10 years, white supremacy gives black America a new weapon of destruction. So in Y2K, the year 2000, former President George W. Bush takes office, he gives us the FBI, state initiative.
Wow.
He finds a way by which you can get federal money to churches, to black churches, because the Constitution says that there must be a separation between church and state.
Yes.
Well, President Bush found a loophole around that. He made the black church eligible to start getting federal grants. And so the reason why you haven't seen the black church at the forefront of any major struggle affecting black people. And what are those struggles? Mass incarceration, miseducation, gentrification, police genocide, and access to wealth. You can't name a black church that is at the forefront of any of those 5 major struggles that we have. You know why? Because since the year 2000, they've been getting subsidized by the federal government to stay out of the black liberation struggle. Now, the other point that needs to be made, the black church will never fall out of favor with black folks for 2 reasons. You will never get rid of black church. Number one, black church is the one institution that tells black people they can solve their problems without doing any work whatsoever. Black people, because of our psychological hypnosis that comes from slavery, we do not want to embrace reality. We do not believe in embracing the truth. Any organization, any leader that is willing to tell us a lie, that is willing to tell us that you can fix all the problems you got and you don't have to do any work. All you have to do is pray and make a contribution to my church. As long as the church is telling black folks they can solve their problems without doing any work, they will never fall out of favor because black people are always willing to lend a favorable air to opportunists who tell us we don't have to sacrifice in order to get free.
Judge Joe Brown.
Well, let me just say this. I don't want to step on anybody's feet, but how do you suppose the people is going to get free if their religion is one that was force-fed to them for the specific purpose of oppressing them?
Correct. I'll tell you something that I've noticed, and I hear them. Dr. Umar Johnson pointed out the preacher. I like that, and I like we're going to specifically identify who and what we're talking about. But I hear people, these preachers talking about as if they are talking directly to God. I talk to God, God talked back to me, and God told me to tell you that you don't have to work. You're absolutely right, Dr. Umar Johnson. Take it away, Judge Joe Brown. Go ahead, sir.
Well, look, what I've heard is these days everybody talks about all you have to do is believe. You don't have to act in any certain way. All you got to do is believe if you want to get in heaven. They don't talk about sin anymore. It's like you walk in the door and they tell you, I've even heard the sermon several times, you can be a drug dealer, a pimp, a killer, a robber, a thief, a rapist. It doesn't make any difference so long as you believe you'll get to see Jesus.
Okay.
And I mean, like, why are you sitting there claiming to be a preacher and you delivering a sermon that says it's okay to be all of these bad things and all you got to do is believe? That's not helping us out. But they want that collection plate to continue to get filled with paper, not coins. They want it filled with paper. And we get paralyzed with that kind of thing. You walk into a meeting and you want to hear somebody give a lecture on how he managed to accomplish something, and what you get is he tells you he has been blessed. I don't want to hear that. Tell me what you did.
Right.
But you see, that's the way we have become trapped into a harmful ideation about things. Then we turn around and we look at the ideation that Hollywood gives us that we flock to see, and it's essentially negative. Like, how much do you see people, how many times did you see people crowd into the Paradiso or other theaters in Memphis to see Tyler Perry being a tranny, playing that fat, crazy Medea?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we go and flock into that kind of dysfunction.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk more about the solution to this stuff. We've got a caller on the line. Go ahead, caller. You've got a question or comment for Judge Joe Brown, and also we've got Dr. Umar Johnson on the phone as well. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hello, this is Susan. How's everybody doing this morning?
Great.
Okay, I have a comment, and I'll probably have questions later. As always, I enjoy listening to you all. Y'all are very classic. However, when you were mentioning days, we should all be up in arms when they say day pride, day right. Gays have no rights. Gays is an inappropriate behavior that people choose to take upon themselves and do. And as far as when President Obama wanted to rethink and say gays had rights, we just need to simply follow the money. And to know better is to do better regardless who tell us a lie. Why would we follow that lie regardless what his color is?
Okay. Who's your question for Dr. Umar Johnson or Judge Joe Brown, or both?
Well, I'm going to talk to Umar Johnson first, and then I got a question for, I'm going to call him Judge Dr. Joe Brown.
Okay. All right.
Dr. Johnson, last week I got the tail end of it. I was busy and time ran away from me. But however, when you were talking about the neighborhood, how we need to take back the neighborhood, I want to revisit that. Because the neighborhoods are nothing we need. We need to take back the community.
All right, let me help you out with that. He's saying that he can't hear you. Dr. Umar Johnson.
Hello, Robert. It's y'all in the studio. Y'all did something to the controls because I can't hear the callers and I can't hear Judge Joe Brown either. I can hear him fine in the beginning, but then something happened. It's not them because her level is the same level as the judge, and they're in two different places. So I think it's something with the master controls, like the volume is down, or because it kind of just went out earlier. I can hear the host clear. I can hear you clear, loud and clear, but I cannot hear the judge, and I cannot hear the callers hardly at all.
I'll tell you what a question is. Cedric, can you check that volume inside there or whatever? Problem.
Can you hear me better now?
I can hear you. I can hear you better now.
Okay, I was on my speaker in another room, but I'm...
Okay, I can hear you now.
All right.
I was saying to Dr. Johnson last week,
Yes.
when you all were talking about take the neighborhood, I said that we need to revisit that. We need to leave that neighborhood exactly where it is, and we need to recreate the community. Because having grown up in a community, there were cohesiveness. There were jobs within the community. There were black pride. There were accountability and responsibility.
Right. Okay, that is something that...
The worst thing in the world was that fussing.
Okay.
And that messed us up. And I feel that maybe these schools that they have closed down in the community, we might need to pool our resources together and purchase them and back the structure that we once had in the community.
Okay. Dr. Umar Johnson, just in case, essentially she's saying taking... Okay, go ahead, sir.
To that I would say